Pirates of the Caribbean, The Natural, Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters, and Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland all have one thing in common. Can you guess what that is? All four films depict eyes out of their sockets or glass eyes. They incorrectly represent the world of prosthetic eyes. I myself, Alex Malkos, have a prosthetic eye, and I've gleaned information from resources such as the New York Times, CNN, and practicing ocularists. Together, we will uncover the truth about prosthetic eyes. We'll look at the history of prosthetic eyes, reasons for someone to get a prosthetic eye, the surgery prior to getting a prosthetic eye, the healing process prior to getting a prosthetic eye, and how modern eye prosthetic eyes are made. Before we can see how prosthetic eyes are made today, let's take a look at their humble beginnings. The first records of prosthetic eyes trace back to the 5th century BC, according to Stephanie Steinberg, a CNN specialist. Egyptians and Romans created and painted clay prostheses to be worn over their eye sockets. Ms. Steinberg reports that in the 1500s, the Venetians made blown glass eyes, which could be worn in the eye socket. Multiple sources account for the German creation and production of artificial glass eyes. Germans in 1835 made glass eyes by warming a tube of glass at one end and producing a moldable ball at the other end. Then they added different colors to mimic the coloration of a healthy eye. German artificial eye makers were labeled oculists in the 1800s. The term oculist is one who specializes in the treatments of eye defects and diseases. German oculists began to visit areas of the United States and introduce their practice to Americans. Germans would give pre-made glass eyes to American doctors, so they were able to provide the best match possible for a patient. World War II caused the glass eye trade to cease. Therefore, Americans took up the practice themselves. Multiple sources recall that Americans were the ones who transformed prosthetic eyes from glass to plastic. This was an advancement in many ways, such as the fact that plastic did not shatter like glass, plastic was easier to shape, and plastic was more durable and would last longer. The mid-1900s accounts for the modern world of prosthetic eyes. The American Society of Oculists was founded in 1957 and is active to this day. Christine Boehm, educational chairwoman of the American Society of Oculists, says that no member of the American Society of Oculists, which includes 200 professional ocularists in the United States and Canada, makes glass eyes. Even though they were commonly referred to as glass eyes, prosthetic eyes are rarely made of glass in the 21st century. As the evolution of the artificial eye took years, people who needed an artificial eye may need it immediately or later in life. There are many reasons for this, such as accidents and injuries, which is the most uncommon reason to get a prosthetic eye. Ocularists Christine Erickson and Ms. Kelly give examples: stringing bows, setting off fireworks, playing with BB guns, snowball fights, bungee cords, shooting paper clips, and more. The second reason would be because of disease and infection. This would be something like cancer or diabetes or glaucoma, which is what I had. This is when the front of the eye does not drain properly, therefore it produces so much pressure that it goes to the optic nerve and enables the person blind. Some facts about prosthetic eyes are that Ms. Boehm states that less than 1% of the population needs an ocular prosthesis. However, ocularist Ann Kisrod estimates that 1 person in 500 has an artificial eye, and annually about 10,000 people are fitted with a prosthetic eye. So before a person in need of a prosthetic eye can get one, they must undergo surgery. There are 2 types of operations that WebMD describes and that I have personally been informed of. The first is called an enucleation. This is the more severe of the two, where the entire eyeball is removed from the socket and then an implant, either cool or plastic, is inserted into the socket. The lesser of the two is called an evisceration, which is the one that I had. This is where the innards of the eye are scooped out, including the iris and the vitreous humor, and then a coral or plastic implant is put in and sealed by the sclera, or the white part of the eye. This is a better surgery because then the muscles are not cut, so you have more movement from the eye. After surgery, the patient must allow time for healing before getting a prosthesis made. At the end of the surgery, the eye is sewn shut with biodegradable stitches. In seeking out 3 different surgeons before my operation, I learned that each doctor is different in how they treat the patient after surgery. WebMD also lists different approaches. Some people are put on oral eye drop or eye drops, antibiotics to prevent infections, while some, like myself, are sent home with a bottle of Percocet and instructed to take it for a week. It normally takes 6 weeks for the eye to open and heal properly. However, problems do occur and the healing process may take longer. Now that the eye is mended, the oculist may begin his or her work in creating the prosthetic eye. Sometimes a conformer or clear lens is needed before the eye can be made. This creates space within the socket for the final eye. Andrea L. Vincent and her colleagues share that surgeons provide colored conformers for infants, which helps the parents undergo the psychological trauma of their infant getting a prosthetic eye. Miss Kelly, WebMD, and I contribute to the explanation of the necessary steps needed to make a prosthetic eye. Most oculaires take an impression of the socket using a small tool that appears like a flattened upside-down funnel. The same material used when you have a dental impression taken, alginate, is put into the tool that is placed in the socket. After the alginate impression is taken, a wax mold is cast. The oculist makes sure that the mold fits and makes adjustments such as raising the upper lid or filling it out more. After the wax mold is acceptable to both the oculaires and the patient, a plastic mold is cast. The iris, pupil, and scleral discoloration are then painted using oil and acrylic paint, and colors such as yellow, green, blue, red, orange, black, and white. No sclera is perfectly white. Most are tinted yellow, green, blue, or red. Then, tiny strands of red silk are used to replicate the blood vessels in the eye. The final adjustments are made, the eye is processed, a clear cover is added, and you get the final product of the eye. A patient with a healthy eye will not be the same as what the prosthesis is, and typically, every 5 years, you'll need to get a new eye made. However, adjustments may need to be made while you have the prosthesis to make sure that everything's working properly. Even though the ability to restore vision is currently not possible, prosthesis continue to be a fantastic option for patients. The history of the prosthetic eye, the reasons one would need to get a prosthetic eye, the surgery beforehand, the healing process, the eye-making process are all what consume the making of an artificial eye. As William Shakespeare said, the eyes are the windows to the soul. Prosthetic eyes serve as a frosted glass window to the soul. You may need to look a bit harder to tell which eye is real and which one is fake.